So, you guys sure had a lot to say on my Battle Royale video, didn't you? Well, that's good. It's always nice to hear different perspectives, even if your opinion of me does shift to a horrible negative. But speaking of opinions, ever since 2012, some Halo fans have been divided on whose designs were the best. The Bungie designs, or the 343 designs. And since I didn't learn my lesson with my last video, it's time to beat a dead horse and talk about Halo's art style. I am so unhappy. Let's go back to E3 of 2011. I remember watching this stream with my brother knowing that we were definitely getting a Halo 4 teaser, partly due to them leaking it on their own bloody website, and a CE remake. I was foaming at the mouth through the initial teaser before my excitement turned into a feeling of utter bewilderment. Weirdly enough, I thought this was a teaser for a new Assassin's Creed game since they're all about simulations and messing with minds, but no. And then we get to this sweet spot right here where you can just barely make out the iconic silhouette of John 117. The Master Chief is finally returning to our screens after 4 years. 4 long years of waiting, and we're about to see him burst out of that cryo tube. What? It wasn't a positive or a negative reaction. I was more confused. How did that happen? How did he go from looking like this only to come out like this? Is the Master Chief a caterpillar? The trailer briefly showcased that the Forward Unto Dawn had been redesigned as well. If I recall correctly, the Dawn was changed to account for the mission size, but within the confines of the canon, it's still the exact same ship that we saw in Halo 3, so... meh. As time went on, it became more and more apparent that 343 were definitely taking the game's art in a different direction, and from what I can remember, it caused a bit of a divide between fans. My stance has always been that I disliked the changes. I thought that they were unnecessary and unappealing. But the problem with the art style debate isn't that people get toxic when talking about it, though there probably are a few that do. It was because it flared up so often and usually had no satisfying conclusion, leaving both sides in a weird state of limbo where nobody was willing to compromise, and by that point everybody involved had already forgotten what the hell they were talking about in the first place. In my opinion, the Chief's new look was the catalyst behind the reaction toward the new designs. The design isn't bad by any means, and I can absolutely understand why they would go in this direction if they were trying to get an element of realism in the games. But I do feel that the way it was portrayed should have been done differently, because the problem isn't exclusively with how it looks, it's also how it was presented to fans. I want to run a scenario by you guys and see what you think. Forget what you know about the intro mission to Halo 4 and try to imagine it playing out like this. Rather than the first mission be fully playable, we would be looking at a semi-playable cinematic experience. The Dawn is experiencing critical failures on multiple decks. We're seeing explosions, holes in the ship, and obviously the huge scan from Requiem's door. Cortana abruptly pulls Chief out of cryo where he has to briefly avoid hazards to get to the escape pods. At this point, the interior of the Dawn and Chief's armor would look the same as they did in Halo 3. The mission is a success, and Chief manages to find his way to the surface of Requiem, but his armor is heavily damaged in the process. We're talking a cracked visor, failing HUD, missing chunks of the suit, and sporadic shield failures. Now picture the Infinity coming into the story much faster. Picture them attempting to recover the Dawn from space, but were accidentally pulled into Requiem's gravity well too. The first real mission could have been your attempt to rendezvous with the Infinity, at which point you're introduced to the Spartan 4s, and you get your new armor. Would that eliminate all the problems that people had with the design? I don't think so, no, but it would have been a less jarring transition than this to this. That being said, I have no doubt in my mind that somebody at 343 thought that this could be the way that Halo 4 opened up. I don't believe that 343 have intentionally set out to change everything just because, and even if they did, is that really the worst thing that's ever come to Halo? I get the feeling more people would have accepted the design changes if they were more subtle and didn't just happen. I'm not 100% sure, but I think there is a canonical reason for the armor change between Halo 3 and 4, but it's so ridiculous I'm not sure if it should be taken seriously by anybody at all. If you're not familiar with this reason, here's Senator Armstrong to explain it to you.
Nanomachine, son!
I feel like introducing changes like this without any reason or context wasn't the right move for 343 to take with their first title in the franchise. Hell, I think people might have still been a bit sore about Halo Reach at the time. With recent news about the PC release being exciting and all, it's easy to forget that Reach did not have the best reaction from fans. And I think some of that concern may have also contributed, at least in a small way, to the reaction of Halo 4. It isn't all bad though, far from it. I love some of the original designs and upgrades that 343's art team have come up with. My favourite weapon in all of Halo is the quintessential assault rifle, and in my opinion, Halo 5's interpretation of this weapon is hands down my favourite. I think a lot of the Promethean enemy designs are inspired, and I'm a big fan of the Warden Eternals look. The only thing Forerunner that I didn't get a taste for was how these seemingly ancient halls and ruins went from looking like these to odd, spiky, floating things with jagged corners. 343 have created some of the most gorgeous environments that Halo has ever had. Sang Helios is a personal favourite, but environments aren't what people were upset about. Whenever I see the topic brought up, more often than not it seems to be the same key complaint points. The enemies, characters both old and new, and your playable Spartan for multiplayer, or the designs of Spartans entirely. My preference for Spartans is easily the Halo 2-3 look. Each armor set felt like it connected just right to the base model. I believe the same for Reach Spartans too. But when I look at the Halo 4 and 5 models, there was always this odd disconnect. I give both versions points for realism because this is probably what a real Spartan would look like. It fits the general shape of a human and it seems practical. Yet I couldn't put my finger on what looked off for me. Maybe I preferred the simplicity of the older Spartans. Maybe the individual armor pieces look too bulky. I'm still not sure. But something that I do know is that they don't feel as memorable to me. I could name you almost every armor piece in Halo 3. Some for Reach too, just by looking at pictures of them. I couldn't name you a single Halo 5 set beyond the super famous and infamous ones like Mark 6, Photos, Achilles, and Seeker.
What?
As for enemies, my issues can be summed up by looking at the Grunt and Elite redesigns. I'm a guy who prefers a graphical upgrade to how something looked previously rather than a full-blown redesign. One could argue that the elites are mostly graphically upgraded with more realistic faces and skins, but you would lose me very quickly on the grunts. And I still think the Halo 2 Anniversary interpretation of elites are brilliantly designed, save for one or two minor gripes. A good example of a graphical upgrade to how something looked would be the Hunters in Halo 5. They were given a visual upgrade and interact with the player in a different way. They're also trickier to kill thanks to a health buff. Appearance-wise, their fleshy, wormy body stands out more, while the armor maintains that classic Hunter silhouette. They are truly hulking monsters representing a considerable threat. Not that they didn't before, it's just that... yeah. As far as characters go, if they've already been established with their own unique appearances, they shouldn't be altered to an unrecognizable state as far as I'm concerned. The changes made to the Arbiter's physical appearance between Halo 3 and 5 was a point of debate among many people, especially those who praised the Halo 2 Anniversary elites because he was a Halo 2 Anniversary elite. And now he's not. He's this. I think that part of the reason for this was because 343 had addressed the redesigned elites as a new phenotype. It's understandable enough, but I would have preferred we stick with new devs, new art, new designs, because that would have put the issue to bed as far as canon confusion. Ultimately, the problem with the art style debate isn't just down to some folks disliking this design or that design, though it does come into that sometimes. It's the way that it was presented, the way that it was handled. As much as I like some designs that 343 have put out there, I do have the opinion that it could have been handled better. But obviously, I don't work at 343 and I have no insider information. You may work at 343 and you may have some insider information, but hindsight is 2020 and to be honest with you, gamers are the worst offenders for backseat developing. It's easy for you or me or anybody else to sit back and say that they did this wrong or I would have done things differently if I were in charge, but if I've learned anything about game development over the last year, it's that gamers can be very quick to dump on developers for not thinking about this idea or that idea, because all we get is the finished product. We don't get to see the meetings had for things that you would normally consider to be obscure, like the font on a main menu. You would be surprised at how much time goes into making sure that game user interfaces have fonts that work for a variety of different people with different conditions. I've been told that game development is like building a skyscraper, but on a computer. Everything gets talked about. How much concrete is required, how strong the beams need to be, the electrics, the furnishing, everything gets talked about, so I have no doubt in my mind that these decisions were not made on a whim or changed for the sake of change. I have been very guilty of looking at 343 designs and thinking, wow, they changed that for no reason. I've had friends give nicknames to 343 games like Play-Doh 5, and I've said and read some questionable things about this topic. With Halo Infinite looking the way that it does, we're clearly in for another design shift, and I would bet that it's not just for the Master Chief and his swanky new armor set. Only time will tell if fans are going to take this as a positive or a negative change as more information and images drop out. But from what I've seen so far, the response to Infinite's reveal has been mostly positive, with some lamenting the loss of previous designs. And as much as I prefer this look to this, knowing how much thought must have gone into each of these designs, it's a loss whether they're to your taste or not. What do you think is Halo's most underrated game mode? Definitely Dominion from Halo 4, that was a lot of fun. What is your all-time favourite Halo file share from any game with the feature? Guru Smeghead, you know exactly what my favourite is. Dude, I love that your videos are well thought out. You rarely repeat yourself, stumble words, say like or and you stay on topic instead of bouncing around like a drunk hummingbird. Thank you. Don't tell anyone, but my secret is the ability to read and write scripts. I would like to talk about Battle Royale in Halo Infinite.
You must be silenced.
Have you considered slapping a Spartan helmet on your avatar's head? There you go. May I have your helmet, good sir? No, it's mine. Go away. Please make a video with Leoric. You two are like the funniest combo. Yo, Leo, let's make a video together.
No.
Okay.